Project for today is going to be this Craftsman YT3000 riding mower. Needs a new deck belt on it, and we're going to replace the tie rods on the steering. When you back this one up, the wheels kind of cock sideways. You can see that one is towed out weird. This has got, it's got one new link here, but then this one you can see the ball in there where it's worn really far out, and then that one's kind of the same way. It's almost ready to fall off of there. I'll get you set up and we'll get started. First thing I'm going to do is take this bracket off of the front of the deck. It'd probably be easier to take the whole deck off, but skipping a step here. Then we gotta get up on this half moon gear for the steering. We have to take this bolt out of the center and drop that down. There's bushings up in here that kind of cover the nuts on the tie rod end, so we gotta drop that down so we can get those out of there. There's a nut up above it I've got a wrench on. Got that with the little shoulder on it. You kind of got to check that for wear too. This one wasn't sloppy up there. You can drop that down enough to get those bushings off. That's these little plastic bushings. And the nut up above was a 15/16 wrench. I'll get something to take these tie rods off with. The bottom one was a 1/2 wrench. And top was 9/16. Let's see. Holy cow, that's tight. There's also a washer that sits on in between this half moon gear and the frame. You gotta watch that falls out of there. And look for wear in here. This one's worn a little bit, but nothing terrible. You can slide a 1/2 wrench under there. And the top is a 9/16. These are usually really tight. That one wasn't too bad. And this one, can't see it too much on camera, but that's pretty loose. They shouldn't have any movement like that. That up and down. They're supposed to move like this, but they're not supposed to move up and down that much. And you can see up on that one, the ball is almost ready. I could probably twist that and pop that right out of there. These are actually right and left specific, so I usually just take one off at a time and then I'll put the correct one on. Otherwise you take them both off, then you're not going to remember which is which. It does say on part, I think. Oh no, I guess it doesn't. So yeah, make sure you don't mix that up. The new ones didn't come with the nuts or washers, so I'll have to reuse those. So here's the one for the left side. It's part number 597069802. Then you got the curved end like that forward. I got that one. I'm going to replace this little link here. That one might be a 13 millimeter. Yeah, that fits better. Might be able to fit the impact in on that one. And you can see how much that one's worn too. So I'm gonna grab the new one of those. This one is part number 597069702. We gotta do this side. This one for the right side, part number 597069902. And we'll have to put them back on that half moon gear, and the steering part of it will be done. I'm gonna put this half moon gear back up, put our bushings back on. Can't really see what you're doing with this gear, with the nut up here. Alright, now we'll put the deck belt on. It's a rotary, part number 12-13251. We'll get this belt off. As you can see, this one had some chunks out of it, and it doesn't look like it's even the correct belt, because the backing is usually reinforced on these belts that run on the backside of pulleys like that. So you don't want to just put a regular automotive belt on there. And we'll lift the deck back up. Hook that out of the way. We'll put it up around the engine pulley. Make sure we get it in those keepers there. It looks like it might be kind of long. And that's what belt it said that took. Oh, that's not too bad now. I've got some new blades to put on it. We'll go test drive it, make sure that steering is okay. There's still our bushings in these pivots here. This Craftsman steering design was not the greatest. Had a lot of movable parts that wear out because none of the other brands really have these drag links inside here. They just have it directly to the wheel. I don't know if they thought they were getting sharper steering or what with it, but it just, once they got some hours on them, they were pretty sloppy. This is a little bit sloppy, but I don't know if that's our issue or not. But there are grease fittings under here and then up here. A lot of people don't ever grease those, and that causes problems too with it binding, and then that'll wear out the tie rods and drag links and stuff faster too. This actually has pretty nice blades on it already, so I might just leave those. They still look sharp even. I hadn't really looked at them. They were more concerned about the steering, but they said throw new blades on. But I'll see what they want to do since these actually look pretty good yet. One thing to note on these Craftsmans, a lot of them have a belt diagram underneath the footwell. That one's for the drive belt. So that's kind of handy to have when you're under there changing the belt. And we'll give these a couple pumps of grease. So I started it up, and once it got warm for a little bit, it started smoking off the muffler here, and it's looking like it's got a pretty bad valve cover leak. These ones just had like a sealer on them, and so if somebody had taken that off to adjust the valves or something and then put it back on, it'll leak. You got to reseal it and scrape all that off of there. So we'll take that off and reseal it for her. Alright, so I let this thing cool off so I could pull this valve cover off, and I tipped it backwards here on the lift. Otherwise you get oil leaking out when you pull that valve cover off. Pop that off. It does seem like it's still glued on there. I don't know if somebody just glued it on and didn't do a very good job cleaning it off or what. These do get kind of warped if you tighten the bolts down too much. Sometimes they get warped. I'll grab a screwdriver. It was sealed on there, but down in here I think is where it was leaking out of. We'll clean all that junk off of there and reseal it and throw it back together. I wiped that off some, and then I'm gonna rinse it off here in the parts washer. Well, all that valve cover is drying, I'll scrape off the head here. Alright, I got that cleaned up and I got the valve cover cleaned up, and I put a bead of silicone around it. Some of these Briggs and Strattons have a paper gasket in, and then other ones are just a gasket maker that they put on there. And these tin valve covers, you don't want to be tightening them down too tight. That's the biggest reason that they fail, because they get warped from being too tight. And I'll usually just let that dry overnight before I start the thing up. That's another mistake a lot of people make when they're using a silicone gasket maker. They'll just wait an hour or so and then fire the thing up. Well, then you might not be dry all the way through, and then it starts leaking because it starts pressurizing a little bit and pushes it out. And one of the last things we'll do on this is throw a new spark plug in it. This one looked like it had been in there a while. Oh, it doesn't look too bad. It's pretty black though. These are Champion RC12YC in this one. And we'll come back when that gasket's dry and go take it for a test drive and make sure everything works. Well, I took it off the lift and put the hood back on. I ran it out back here and it doesn't look like it's leaking any oil. Before, as I was running it, I could see puffs of smoke come out under the hood that was dripping on that muffler. You can kind of see where it's been dripping and burning off of there. But we'll fire it up and test it out, make sure that deck belt works and everything, and then this one will be good to go. Well, everything seemed to work okay. The only thing is I must have spun the this a little bit when I had that gear out of there, so I'm just gonna have to pop the steering wheel off and cock that a little bit, because when you're going straight, you can see the wheels are about straight right now and the steering wheel's crooked. So I'll do that and this one will be done. Well, that's going to do it for this one. If you like this sort of thing, like the videos and subscribe to the channel, and we'll catch you on the next one.